Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to take a look at my top 5 inks from 2024. See what I used, how I came to that decision, and what ultimately made the top cut. So when it comes to fountain pens, it's a three-part equation. The pen, the paper, but the ink is what can really make or break the writing experience. So how do you choose those inks? Have you found yourself walking along at a stationery store looking at the rows and rows of inks, wondering which one do you choose? Are you going to like it? What happens if you don't like it? I've lost count of how many times I stare at my selection of inks, wondering, do I go with a classic blue? Or do I take a jump off the wild side and go with something like a pink or a yellow or an orange? It really comes down to me of what pen I'm going to put it in, what I plan to do with the pen in terms of writing, as well as, is it a new ink that I want to try out, or do I want to go back to one of the proven favorites that I've been using for years? So let's take a look at my top 5 inks from 2024 and how I came to that decision. My number 5 ink for 2024 is Edelstein Onyx. I don't use black ink all that often, but when I do, I like a true black ink. I have a few other black inks, but they all tend to dry as more of a gray, so this was a nice change of pace. I got this ink earlier this year, and it has become my standard for black ink as it stays in my platinum desk pens. I did, however, recently purchase some platinum Chaukuro, so it has a chance of taking over as my new standard black ink, but that's something to be explored in 2025. My number 4 ink for 2024 is Diamine Oxblood. This is actually one of the earliest inks that I got when I was starting my pen journey, and it's been a staple ever since. I got my first bottle when I got my Sailor 1911 Black Luster, as I loved the blacked out pen with the red ink. True Blood was still on TV at the time, so that probably influenced that decision in some way, but the color combo did seem very appropriate. I didn't realize at the time, but that ink became a permanent fixture for the Sailor, as it's the only ink that has been in that pen ever since. So my number 3 ink for 2024 is actually Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. This is a bit of a similar scenario to the Sailor in that I purchased this ink at the same time as my Pilot Custom Heritage 823, as I saw someone online who was using that pen and ink combo, and I was hooked. So this is actually the only ink that I've ever put into my 823. The Toffee Brown matches the body of the pen beautifully, writes wonderfully, and it's just the perfect color combination for me. My number 2 ink for 2024 is Iroshizuku Sui Gyoku. While this is a newer color for me, I've been a fan of the Iroshizuku inks for most of my time as a pen enthusiast. I put this in my Opus 88 Omar demonstrator, and I've already written that pen about halfway dry in the last couple of months. This color just looks great, and the demonstrator pen performs flawlessly, and that being able to see the ink level drop as I write really adds to my enjoyment. And not to be outdone, I do have 2 honorable mention inks to talk about as well. I got the Colorverse Coffee Break to go along with my Schaefer 100 Coffee Edition, and I've used it continuously in that pen in a specific journal, so due to that limitation, it didn't get the same use as some of the others, so that's why it's not part of the top 5. The other honorable mention for me is the Colorverse San Francisco Bay, which was the 2024 San Francisco Pen Show Ink of the Year. I was given a couple of sample vials of this at the 2024 Pelican Hub, and I filled my Opus 88 Minty with it. I've written that pen dry, and I've since used the second sample and filled it back up. This didn't make my top 5 list, as I don't actually own a bottle of this ink. Now, before I reveal my top ink of 2024, I'd love to know, what was your favorite or most used ink of 2024? Drop a comment below and let me know. Did you try something new, or did you go with one of your all-time proven favorites? Now let's get to number 1. Okay, and here we are at my top ink of 2024. Number 1 for me was the Iroshizuku Sayuro. I came to this decision by what ink I've used the most. Now I know that this is partially due to the pen that it's in, but that's part of the personal preference. I have this in my Opus 88 demonstrator, and it has become my go-to pen and ink combo. I've been using this in my main journal, using it for work notes, and with the known performance and consistency of all the Iroshizuku inks, combined with my Opus 88 demonstrator, it was not hard for me to see how this was my top choice. So that wraps up my top 5 inks of 2024. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these with me. Do you use a similar method of choosing what were your favorite inks for the year before, or do you have a different method that I might look into for next year? Leave a comment below and let me know what your process is to determine what is your truly favorite ink for a certain time period. If you're new here, consider subscribing so that way you can see more of these videos as they're coming out into 2025 and beyond. Thanks for watching.